Thank you, Dr. Youssef. I'll start. Robert, you're going to be my first victim. You talked about the importance of customer service. Can you tell us a bit about what you think are the key metrics or the key driver for customer service at the retail point? I'm a true believer that excellent customer service actually translates into additional purchases, into additional sales for retailers. So throughout your work, what do you think are the 2 or 3 points that really we have to pay attention to? Thank you.
Well, in all of the work that we do, when you consider the customer journey and measure the customer's experience during that journey, it's really split into sizable chunks. It's the minute they walk in the store and how they're greeted. It's how they're qualified. There's then a sales and cross-sales capability and how the experience ends. And when you take those 4 component categories, you can break them down into their constituent parts. I don't think many retailers measure in exactly the same way. The retailers we work with, and we work with a lot of retailers, we do work with Majid Al Futtaim across every sector of their business, from fashion to malls, and we benchmark their services and their levels of performance against their competitors. And so we can see exactly how different types of organizations are measuring different things. It's clear to me that retail organizations, and the topic for today was turning footfall into purchases. Many of the retailers are not measuring their employees' performance. Many employees that we come across do not have the product knowledge to be able to make a sale to someone who perhaps has a better technical knowledge of that person. I mean, I guess most of you live here. When was the last time you were qualified? And when was the last time you were cross-sold anything? And I guess that it's going to be 0 or 1s. So for me, the KPIs are really clear. The job of getting people in the stores, for me, is really easy. There's huge billions of dirhams are spent in doing that. Once they're in there, it's reliant upon one person or persons to make the sale. There's a 5 Ps model that Forrest developed in '85 in the UK, which basically said that products and premises got people in the door. They were the attractors. But it was people and processes that got the customers coming back. And there is a direct correlation, and has been researched by many organizations globally. There's a direct correlation between customer satisfaction, repurchase, and loyalty, and therefore retention. And I think it's crucial that retailers measure those things. And it really comes down to measuring their people. It is quite simple.
And can you tell us a bit about, sorry.
If I may add also that from a management perspective, I think one of the things that's also really missing in Dubai is the link between employee satisfaction and customer satisfaction, because that's also somewhat established. And I think that there's just a...
is there maybe a KPI here that we should put in place?
I think that there's just a belief here that, and this is an empirical question, meaning, we can go and do a study if someone will let me in the organization and do it. That's always a problem for me here. But it's free consulting for them. Some people want it, some people don't. The issue is can you just bring in cheap labor from anywhere, put them in a store, and let the product sell themselves? I say no, because I study management, and I don't think that it works very well. And I observe this anecdotally, and I study this. I think if you train people and you pay them slightly more, you get their buy-in to whatever it is that you're doing. You incentivize them appropriately and train them and get them actually interested in whatever it is that they're selling. Then you communicate to the customer a completely different thing, which is not happening in this environment. So I think it's also an issue of how you're managing the employees, as opposed to just a matter of whether or not you're having feedback going back to the headquarters about what the employee is doing.
No, I fully agree, and I think one of the points you've touched upon, and Robert, this is a question to you again, is training. I mean, what are the best practices that you've seen in the best performing companies that have delivered consistently, superior, I would say, training programs that help actually their employees, their sales force on the floor to deliver, superior sales performance? Is there anything that you can share with us in that respect?
Well, for me, Unfortunately, one of the things we see very regular in this part of the world is people turning up from a country, given a uniform and put in a shop to serve without any training. It happens. It still happens every single day. I think there are some phenomenal examples of best practice that have evolved in the 10 years that I've been here. A very good example of that was the first speaker this morning. I mean, as a Azadia Group, have, for me, a phenomenal program of both recruiting the right people, training those people, then measuring their performance. I'd have to say that Majid Al Futtaim have exactly the same policies. And it isn't really rocket science. It's really easy. It really is about not going to an outsourcing company and bringing bulk a bunch of kids from another country and giving them a remuneration package that is on the bottom line in terms of expectations, but actually recruiting the right people. Many of the kids that work in the retail stores in the UAE have never worked in a retail store in any other part of the world. They never have. And they've never been given the training to be a sales assistant. And the reason for that, for me, a couple of years ago, was that products walked off the shelf. Dubai was the booming place in the whole world, and things basically walked off the shelf. You just needed order takers. You needed people to take money off the customer. The market's changed dramatically, and I think those organizations that have been alerted to that, the likes of Azadia and MAF, will benefit from making sure they recruit the right people, give them the right training, and then constantly retrain them based upon their performance.
No, I fully agree with you. I think the retail environment has completely changed, and I think we have to put more efforts when it comes to selling our products to our customer and delivering excellent customer service. I mean, coming back to what you said, maybe Shahram can tell us a bit about the training programs you have in place at MAF. And I would probably also ask the question to Rudy Rashid.
I'd have to agree with everything Robert said. I think at the end of the day, it comes down to you have to spend money, right? You have to allocate funds for what you call training, development, customer service. A larger organization see it as a necessary part of being good at what you do. You have to remember, the retail industry's got a lot of small businesses in it. Whilst you have companies like Azadia, who are probably the best from sort of our retail sort of groups that we deal with in terms of this sort of level of people they employ, how they invest in them, how they train them, and retention. You also have some small businesses who are traditionally just used to basically hiring the cheapest. They don't even have programs in place. We actually have a all year round customer service program that we provide for our smaller tenants free of charge. But at the end of the day, one of the issues is it's a very transient trade, so retention is an issue because the pay is not that great, so people tend to move around. So your companies tend to spend money in training, but they don't spend money in retention, right? So you have this sort of, it's a very sort of a porous trade industry where you're talking about the shop floor. We generally have we have a plethora of programs. It's difficult for me to go through it. We have internal, external consultants that come in. We have internal programs. We have, it's really just an ongoing thing. We have a whole floor in our office, which is the second level, which is the training and development. And on a daily basis, we have different things down there in terms of training and development and programs. So, and then there's different parts of the business. I go to some of it. I go to some training programs myself, right? I get signed up and I go, and because we all need some sort of re-education training.